Welcome to my first Miss Universe Nigeria recap. First, we're going to talk about the show, performances, and then we'll talk about the elephant in the room. I am loving these pre-show red carpets. Why aren't we doing this at Miss USA? I remember when I went to Miss Universe in 2019, there was something similar to this. It was very small. It was in this hangar warehouse type space, and it was primarily only for former title holders. But I love that they're getting the judges on the red carpet, sponsors. There was even a sponsored fashion show on the red carpet. So very, very unique. And I just love the pre-show warm up. I think it would be really fun for viewing parties at home to watch this part of the show. This year they had 25 contestants and they crowned 2 title holders for Supranational and then also for Universe. And this is interesting because as far as I know, Anne said you can only crown 1 title holder at your Miss Universe franchise pageants because Anne just wanted all of the attention on the Miss Universe titles and not on any other systems. So it's really interesting to see that they've somehow gotten around that and they're crowning a supranational queen as well. They had a beautiful show opening with clips of the contestants on screen. I thought that that looked really lovely. The first time that we saw the contestants on stage, they were in their traditional outfits and they did a dance, and I thought that that was a really, really fun part of the show. It was very unique and it helped each of the girls to stand out in their own way. After the traditional outfit dance, they also came out in a production number dress. I don't know if these pieces were custom, but they looked really great on stage. Fringe moves so well and catches a lot of light, and so I thought that they looked so cute in these outfits. Now, after the opening, we went to the swimsuit competition. Since I'm not familiar with this pageant, I didn't know the names of many of the contestants, or I don't know if they were announcing them by a region or a state. I don't know the correct terminology for that. And they didn't have any contestant numbers on or sashes while they were competing for swim and gown, unfortunately. And their names weren't across the stage at all either. So I really, really wish that that'll be changed for next year because I could listen to the names being called, but I wasn't exactly sure of the pronunciation of each of them. She had a very nice opening spin turn. She had some nice posing transitions and she was smiling a bit. One of my overall notes for swimsuit is I feel like a lot of the contestants had a very, very serious face. So it didn't look like they were enjoying themselves on stage or having fun. And one of my main comments is just smile a little bit more or smile at some point during swim. But back to her. I also wish she would have relaxed her mouth a little bit for this part of the competition. She is so beautiful. Oh my gosh, her face really stood out on stage to me. She had some nice posing, but I wish she would have taken a little bit more time at the end of the runway on stage. Like, you need to have that perfect moment where a photographer could snap a great image of you. I wish she would have taken just a little bit more time to connect with the judges. Our next contestant was giving me Naomi vibes with this hairstyle and I loved it. I thought that her walk overall can be improved, but I really like her effort. Like, I could tell that she had put in work into her preparation and you could see that work coming across on stage in a good way, so I really liked her. The next standout for me also had a beautiful long straight hairstyle. I loved that look. For me, she was a standout for the swimsuit competition overall. She would have received one of my highest scores. I like her presentation. She was smiling, she looked like she was present and having a good time, so that would have earned points with me. For me, this was another memorable performance, but I do think that it could have been enhanced even more if she hadn't waved around her sarong so much. I don't know why everybody was overplaying the sarongs, but for me it was coming across as very Miss Grand versus Supra or Universe. Here's another good performance, but I feel like it would have done better without moving the sarong around so much, and I do think that she needed to hold the pose at the end of the runway, but for me she still would have been one of the higher scoring contestants. Our next contestant looks like she's had some coaching and training, and also those heels. They remind me a lot of the shoes that a lot of the girls in the Philippines wear, and I feel like if you're from another country, like you're not in the Philippines, then you've probably had some type of coaching if that's the style of shoe you decide to go with. They're not easy to walk in, but she walked really easily in them. I think that there's still room for improvement in this performance, but she still did a great job and still stood out to me. She was great. She had some nice posing transitions and a walk. I just wish we would have seen a little bit more variation with the facial expressions and seen her smile a bit more. Here's another example of overworking your sarong. I'm trying to give everybody grace because we saw that so much in this competition, and I would assume maybe they were encouraged to do this in rehearsals. She had a nice walk, she had some nice posing, and she's one of my few contestants who did smile as well. So I really like that about her, and this for me was a good performance. First thing that struck me about her is her opening facial expression. She was so engaged, so connected with the judges here. I really liked her. Of course, overall, I think that the posing transitions could be improved. And I wish she would have held her end pose a little bit longer, but I still really thought she had a strong opening. This would have been even better, I think, if she didn't wave her sarong over her head. But it was still a good performance. The poses looked good. I just wish that she would have held them for a little bit longer. Really nice walk. I could feel her confidence oozing on stage, and I feel like that is so important, especially if you can feel somebody's confidence, I think, through a TV screen. Just imagine how she came across in person. So excellent job here. Nice walk, really beautiful face on stage. Just hold those poses a second longer. I don't know what it was this year. Is it just nerves, or were they told don't wait too long at the end of the stage? But I feel like having a good internal clock is a really valuable skill on stage for these types of competitions, so you know and you have an idea of like how long you're actually standing on stage. A lot of times we feel like we made that pose, but when we watch it back, we're like, wow, I was practically running off of the stage. So always be aware of that. They did show some behind the scenes clips of the contestants. They sent them to what they called was a camp, and this was over the period of a few days. And I really like these experiences for the ladies. They seem to have done a lot at the host hotel. So there were hair and makeup sessions. There was a photo shoot with the contestants. They had different events working with the sponsors. There were, of course, rehearsals to learn the dances. It looks like the ladies were getting a lot of feedback for their walking and their posing, and then also there was an orientation. They were speaking to the contestants, I'm sure probably just encouraging each of them. So I really like this. It looked like they were doing a lot during the few days that they were in this camp. Now we had a performer during this show, and I was so happy to see this. I feel like performers really enhance the entire quality of a show, and it just makes me think about the fact that in the US we don't have performers anymore, and that makes me so sad. And I just feel like it really enhances the entertainment value, and it makes it more enjoyable for the audience to watch. So for me, performers are necessary. Now we moved into gown, and we got to see all of the contestants for gown. I like that they did this because there were only 25 ladies. There's enough time in the show to do so. This gold gown with the hair up was really well styled for me. I thought this was really beautiful. I just wish she had not have held her skirt. I don't really know why she did. To me, it didn't look like the gown would have been that long, but if it were, she needed alterations. So ladies, never overlook those alterations. The way that you carry your gown on stage is important, and it will affect your score and your performance. Very beautiful. Her evening gown looked lovely on her. It was interesting to see the piece around her arms. There was a lot of structure in it, versus lately we've been seeing those wrapped shawl type pieces, and they've been a lot softer. So hers was different. I have the same note for her for swim and gown, and that was just to relax her mouth a little bit more. It was almost like she left it open for gown this time, and I really feel like she should have closed it. She had a very well fitted gown. She looked elegant on stage. She did a good job. I just wish she would have given us a smile. It really would have softened everything up for this performance. She looked great in this evening gown, which was kind of this like gold yellow tone. It looked a little bit different at some points of the show under the lighting, but it was really beautiful. I felt her confidence. I do wish her ending pose though would have been finished facing the audience a little bit more, like really give them your attention. She is so beautiful, and I feel like she got lost in the mix. I really wish that she would have held that pose at the end of the runway. This was a lovely color on her, and I have to say there's something about her aura. She just seemed so sweet, and I loved that about her. She was very, very likable during this portion of the competition and looked beautiful in her gown. I love her. I think that the orange was beautiful on her. I love the hair. I love the styling. The gown was really unique, very beautiful. I like this. This would have scored very well with me. This gown right here reminded me a lot of Miss Kentucky USA this year. The yellow, the big piece in the front, really covering the body and hiding her. I was worried about Kentucky's placement, and I was definitely worried about this contestant's placement as well, even though Kentucky finished very well at USA. But it's always a concern to me when the gown is more distracting and it takes away from the contestant. I personally loved the headpiece on her. I don't know what you would call that, but just the piece that was draped over her. I thought it was really beautiful, very eye-catching, and she was just really feeling herself in this moment. So she was super confident, and I liked that. White is a really beautiful color on her, and the gown was lovely on stage. I do wish that she would have stopped for her pose more though. She needed a little bit more of that connection with the judges. This gown was very fun and unique with all the structural pieces on top. The bottom of it reminded me of a coral reef, and I thought that she did a good job with her facials. I do wish that her posing transitions would have been smoothed out more. This was probably my favorite evening gown of the competition. The white on her was great, but the structure of this gown was beautiful, and this stood out to me. I loved this yellow gown. So it's so rare, I think, to see these plain gowns do very well at pageants anymore, but her height really carried the gown. The color popped on her. She was memorable. She was different from everybody else. So this was some great styling. I loved this, loved the performance. She was very elegant. Let's talk about our winner. Her evening gown, the top of it reminded me a lot of Leo Almodal's style of rhinestoning. I'm not sure who made this evening gown, but I think when I saw this dress, I saw a lot of rhinestones, but then I also saw a lot of sheer panels, and I have a feeling that this dress looked really stunning on stage and in person, and it's so tough because when you watch something online, you don't get the full effect of how it really shines, but I bet this gown was incredible. She also had these unique gloves with kind of like some fringe beading coming down, but really with her, I was so mesmerized by her face. She is so stunning on stage. After this, there were some special awards, and we had a second performer. Next, we got to see our top 10. They all got to walk shortly and be presented, and then very quickly after that, we announced the top 5. So a really quick cut. Now for this portion of the show, the ladies had their sashes on, so I was able to get their names. The contestants got to draw random questions, and here they were. Miss Chidimma, this was her question. How do you balance personal ambition and the needs of others in your life? She said that she motivates herself because the people around her will be inspired by her, and she knows that she has a very powerful story, and she knows that she is inspiring people. She said, I am empowering people, and I know that my story has made an impact not only in my life, but on so many other lives. So this is interesting. She talked about her story, but I don't know what story she's referring to. I have a feeling that the judges do. I'm sure she would have talked about this in her interview, but I really wish she would have added something in there about this story. Ito was asked, what is the biggest lesson you've learned from a failure or a mistake? She talked about being able to get up again no matter what you've been through. She says that her name means the day is not over and life continues, and she wants to embody her name. So I really thought that that was a great answer. I loved that. It was creative. Ondo was asked what is the most important quality of a leader, and she said that a leader should possess passion for others and the ability to be able to relate to them. Even if she's not in their shoes, a leader is compassionate and kind, and I think it's really important to possess that. Now, here's what's interesting. She got thrown off a little bit, and she says, oh, sorry, can you repeat the question again? Normally at pageants, there's a time limit, and they cut you off, but the host didn't cut her off. Instead, actually, she reprimanded the audience. She reminded everyone that it's very difficult to answer these questions on stage and that we should be encouraging all of our contestants. I was like, oh my gosh, wait, I love that. So she went on to say that she believes a leader should be passionate. It's important that a leader possesses this because they lead by example, and their followers will actually watch what they're doing and do the same. So I think it's really important to be passionate because the world needs more of that. Anambra was asked, how do you define success and what steps are you taking to achieve it? And she says, I define success by how you feel when you look in the mirror. And when you look in the mirror and you wake up in the morning, you have to have self-courage. You have to be able to love yourself. And I believe with my W4 initiative that I am empowering women to help them with self-courage and to always stand tall and shake the universe, knowing that no matter what, that they are loved and they are valued. So really nice message here, very kind, very empowering. Reverse was asked, how do you handle criticism and how do you think it can help you grow? She said, thank you very much, and thank you for the judges for allowing me to get this far. I think the first thing that I do when I get criticized is think about myself and my strength, and I remember who I am, and I don't allow the definitions of others to take hold of that. And then the next thing I do is see what I can improve about myself, and that's something I want women to do, to dig deep into themselves before others do. When you dig and then you make that person inside better, that's what you're supposed to do. Forget the criticism. I think that this answer was good, but it did feel a little bit redundant in the messaging. In my opinion, it took longer than it needed to for the entire crowning process to happen. It seemed a little bit slow, and I also wish for production that they would have changed the music to make it a little bit more dramatic. It was just like the same consistent music that they had already been playing during the onstage question portion. So here's what they did. They announced a second runner-up who was awarded as Miss Lush, and I forget, but I didn't watch all of the breaks or the hosts were speaking. I'm sure they explained what Miss Lush is, but I missed that part. So that went to Ondo. And other note, always crown and sash your winners from behind. Whoever was doing this was standing right in front of her, so it was really hard for the camera to get that moment to capture it. Our first runner-up going to Miss Supranational, so I should be seeing her next year, is Anambra. So congratulations to her. That's very exciting. I love the Supranational organization. They do a great job. And then our queen is Taraba. So her face is so gorgeous. Like I said, she's absolutely stunning. What was interesting here to see too, when we were down to the top 3, is that she was the shortest of the top 3. So that's a little bit more rare in pageantry to see our shorter contestants out of the group get crowned. But I think it's really important to see. I think it's great. I think it's encouraging to a lot of shorter contestants. I didn't even realize that she was shorter than the other contestants. When I saw her on social media, the way that she carries herself in photographs it's very tall, and I feel like that's all that really matters. But she looks stunning. Now, the thing that I want to talk about her specifically is the fact that she was in the top 16 this year at Miss South Africa. She was on Crown Chasers, and then she ends up withdrawing from the competition and then showing up at Miss Universe Nigeria, joining in, and then winning. So it's very interesting to see. Some people didn't like the optics of that, and people were saying online that the Miss Universe Nigeria organization, or their organizers, specifically invited her to come and compete at Miss Universe Nigeria. I don't know the validity of all of that. I don't know the circumstances surrounding that entire process and that switch from South Africa to Nigeria. It is interesting to see, and I have to agree, I don't think it looks great for optics if shortly before your pageant, like you have all these girls, they've all been announced as contestants, and if this is true, if you do reach out to another girl and you're like, hey, please come compete for us, she literally leaves another competition in the middle of it, doesn't even complete that competition, and then comes to compete for your organization and then wins. So it is really, really interesting. I wouldn't suggest that that's something any pageant director should do, especially for Universe, because now there's no age limit. So she could have competed at South Africa. If she wins South Africa, great. If she doesn't, then she could always compete at Universe Nigeria the next year. I feel like that would have been a better scenario for her and just for optics in the pageant world. But that is my opinion. Overall, it was a great show. I think they did a great job producing this. They said that it was only the second year of this pageant, so that's really interesting, and it's looking great at the beginning of their history. So well done. Thank you so much for tuning into the episode, and I hope that you'll stick around for lots more. Let me know what other pageants you would like me to recap next.